Hi, my name is Laurel, and I am one of the Gen Z advisors for the Climate Mental Health Network. I am originally from Honolulu, Hawaii, and I now live in Los Angeles. And grief has shown up in a lot of different ways in my life lately. Um, to start off, talking about anticipatory grief, as in grieving something that hasn't happened yet that you anticipate. I remember experiencing this in the summer of 2022 when I had gone to visit the island of Maui. It's where my dad's side of the family all live, and it's a trip that I've done every year since I was a baby. And one of my favorite things that we would do is go to Kaanapali Beach and just lay out on the sand all day talking story. And I remember when I went in 2022, things felt different. I remember the sand was so hot, it was stinging my feet. And I went snorkeling for a little bit. And when I came back on shore, I noticed that my plastic coffee cup had actually melted and morphed in the sand. And I had never seen that before. And so I remember just being in that moment thinking, oh my gosh, this beautiful place that I imagine taking my future kids and future grandkids to one day might be a place that's too unbearably hot to enjoy as the effects of climate change get worse. And I remember bringing up this fear of mine to um, some friends and family, and they're all like, "You're being dramatic." And so I remember feeling invalidated from that experience. And then a year later, the deadliest wildfire in modern US history happened in Lahaina, where my family lives. And so my grandparents, auntie and uncle, and cousins lost their home in Lahaina. And so I I feel like that even though that was a shock, it was also like I feel like I had been anticipating that a disaster like this could happen to people I knew. And so I do feel like that grieving process had started before the fire actually happened. And yeah, I think just the experience of seeing how the mental health of the community was also impacted long term still today, even though the fire happened in 2023. That was something that was really eye-opening to me because up until that point, I had only heard about very bad disasters like Hurricane Katrina on the news. And then, after a few months, you don't hear about it anymore. And so you kind of just think, oh, everyone's probably okay. Like if they survive, then they're living their life. But in reality, now, after seeing the Lahaina wildfire and, hearing from my family their everyday struggles and hearing their neighbors' struggles, of like being in isolation and struggling with PTSD and just like the loss of losing your home and everything. Um, that was something that was new to me and really is what motivated me to make a film about their experience called Healing Lahaina, and then have one of the impact pillars be mental health and reducing the stigma around mental health and disasters. Um, and so this, I think that going through that grief helped me grow in the work that I do and really was just extra motivation for me to do the work in making the film and now in the impact campaign phase, getting community screenings that are paired with climate cafes or healing circles. And so I think this, unfortunately, I think that the growth was one good thing that came out of it. And now I'm hoping that the events that I hold will help more people around the world. And unfortunately, I think my film will become more relatable as more disasters happen and more people become impacted firsthand. Um, Another quote that I live in Los Angeles, and so I was here during the LA fires in January 2025. And so that was another time of just a lot of grief and anxiety. And I remember on the first day looking out my window, I live in Culver City and I could see the Palisades fire, the smoke from the Palisades fire from my window. And I remember looking at social media and seeing videos of people leaving their cars in the middle of the road to flee the fire. And it looked so similar to all the footage that I had been looking at in the Lahaina fire for a year now at that point. And so it really shook me. And I remember just like being overcome with sadness for the next couple weeks because the fires lasted for a couple weeks. And then also just like grieving places that I used to go to. Thankfully, my apartment was fine, but I knew people who lost their homes. Um, there are a lot of outdoor spaces that I used to love going to every week that I now am not able to go to because it burned down or it's near burn zones. And so there's, yeah, there's a lot of ecological grief that I'm experiencing and not being able to go to the places I love in nature anymore. And I think that's something that a lot of people are struggling with in LA. If they haven't lost their home, they're still struggling with losing other places that were special to them in LA. Um, but another good thing that came out of, or like bright spot that came out of the fi LA fires was seeing how the community came together after it. I went to volunteer at the YMCA, which was collecting donations for fire victims, and like there were people from Arizona and Nevada that had driven all the way here, had hosted donation drives in their state, and drove all the way to California to drop things off for people. And so I think there's something about disasters and hard times where it can bring out the best in people. Um, and so that was one thing that was special to see was LA coming together as a community, which is similar to what happened in Lahaina, was a lot of people came together to do whatever they could to help. Um, in terms of, I think for me, dealing with this grief has been a learning process because I think when someone you care about has been through a disaster, something I was not aware of was like secondary trauma. And I think that was something that I experienced with the Lahaina wildfire that I didn't realize was even affecting me and my body until several months later when I was having health issues and going to all these doctors and then them coming back to me being like, it's from stress. And it was only when I seeked out professional mental health help that I was able to really relieve a lot of that stress and talk about the grief that I was experiencing and start feeling like myself again. And so that is something that I've been trying to talk to more people about here in LA is, if you feel like you need support, you should go get it. Don't feel like, oh, just because like, I don't deserve help because I didn't actually lose my home. Like I think that kind of thinking doesn't help anyone because now then you're not as capable of helping other people because you're struggling yourself. And so that is one thing that I have learned that I would try to encourage other people who have been through disasters or know people who have been through disasters. Um, I think that's it.